We have a lot of comments to talk about before starting this episode. Hey, it's Romania Black! And yes, before you go to the link down below in the description, which is the reaction, I will be starting by talking about several comments from episodes 1 through 3 of Frieren Beyond Journey's End, because that's what I get for skipping last week. That's what I get for skipping the comments and now tying back to them all. But yes, this series has been so much fun. The second season has been great so far. I have really enjoyed it. So we're going to talk about these comments. Y'all had lots of things to tell me about, which I'm super excited to tie in together. And then we're going to look at the link down below in the description. And then we're going to come back and talk about the episode and have screenshots. Okay. Somebody had commented on episode 2. They're like, why do you just show screenshots, not the reaction? And I was like, well, you might want to go to that link that's in the description that I talk about it, this timestamp, and it'll help you out. So I'm an English teacher, so literacy is important. But with that being said, I do want to talk first of all about Malgum had a comment for episode 1 that said, one thing the party doesn't seem to quite get is they already have a pretty good source of income. Fern has been certified as a first-class mage. That alone means they charge quite a lot for her services. It's not just their party's habit to do so. When Frieren and Fern were signing up for the exam, Fern argued against hiring a first-class mage to accompany them on account of it cutting deeply into their budget. And this was after they had a sizable 3 meals plus snacks a day for a year, etc. budget. So yeah, Fern could charge quite a bit for their services because she's a first-class mage. However, they're not wont to do that, just like they're not wont to carry around a little bit of magic nullifying crystals to become billionaires, you know. Malgum also said for episode 2 about the Hero of the South. Since I have a vague memory of you mentioning having watched Naruto, Hero of the South might sound familiar to you. He has Kakashi's voice actor. Kakashi's one of my favorites. I don't remember a lot from Naruto, but you don't forget Kakashi. So I was like, that's maybe why. Maybe that's why I was swooning, because it was Kakashi's voice actor. I'm like, of course. Also, I thought this was great. I saw this over on Twitter where it was like they actually made real puppets for the puppet show and used them as a reference. They are hand sketching and drawing each frame of the ED. They are making puppets to use as references. Frieren is just doing everything that we want them to do with physical media and 2D and I love it. I'm so happy. And then Malgum says, with the demon creativity question, specifically, do they have souls? We actually do know that they have souls. Aura's magic scales work directly by weighing her soul against her opponents for their mana. We actually got to see her soul in Frieren's on the scale back in season 1, episode 10. Yes, that is correct. Thank you for reminding me about that. I think maybe I did not phrase it correctly. Maybe I was thinking of their emotional intelligence, maybe, because yes, even velociraptors have souls, correct? Right? Unless you don't believe that dogs or animals have souls, then I guess whatever. But in this case, they do. Yes, maybe emotional intelligence was the better word for it. But regardless, thank you for those comments. That was really nice. CD says for episode 2, a brief comment about the hiatus of the creators. I thought this was interesting. I did some research when I first heard about it a while back. This is not the first time they have taken an indefinite hiatus. It has happened at least twice before. So at least for now, I don't think it's something to be overly concerned about with regard to the series. So, okay, well that does make me feel a little bit better. I mean, it sucks that their health is not great. Nobody wants to have to deal with that. But the fact that this is not the first time it's happened, they've had hiatuses before, mean that they probably have things in order that if their health gets to where they're like, I need to take a break, I can't do this for a while, then it's just something that happens. And honestly, I know some people on the internet are impatient and kind of inconsiderate about it, but as someone who knows what it's like to have a little health setback, I'm like, it's you take your time. Take your time off. You need to do that. So that's interesting to note. They also said the scene where Frieren tells Himmel what the Hero of the South had said. I wonder if it was later in their journey rather than early. Did she save it for Himmel when he needed a push? It would be neat to know when she told him on their journey. I know! That's my one question from episode 2. I'm like, when did she tell him? Was it a week into their journeys? A month? A year? It's just there's a part of me that the cinematic romantic side of me would be right before they get to the Demon King is when she tells him. Like, Himmel's had like a low point, like they struggled after defeating a demon or something, and Himmel's really struggling about it, and Frieren notices, and she's like, oh, hey, just so you know, it's all going to work out because X, Y, and Z. Or Himmel laments, like, what if they lose? And Frieren's like, no, the hero of the South told me this. So yeah, I would like, the romantic in me would like to imagine it was right before they faced the Demon King, but maybe they'll tell us one day, or maybe they won't. But anyway, thank you for the comment. Linus Peterson, 542, with episode 2, along with Nadge, they said, the reason you saw 8 demons was because Schlatt was not part of the 7 sages. In the puppet show they mentioned, the hero of the South was defeated by Schlatt the Omniscient, the Demon King's confidant who could see 1,000 years into the future with magic, and the combined forces of all 7 sages. See, I thought that when they said the Demon King's confidant and the combined forces of the 7 sages, I thought that that meant that Schlatt was one of the 7 sages and the confidant. But the screenshot where there's 8 of them would prove that wrong. So I'm glad we got that settled. And then Linus Peterson, as well as Sam Shams 4642, says for episode 3, in episode 3 of season 1, literally a season ago, Fern says she's 16 after her and Frieren celebrated her birthday, and that it was 27 years after Himmel's death. In episode 12, Frieren says it's Stark's 18th birthday, 29 years after Himmel's death. And in episode 14, it's Fern's birthday again, and that was also 29 years after Himmel's death. So Fern would have turned 18 then, and Stark is a few months older. So they're basically 18 and 19. Good. I will say, like, the first official, like, boyfriend I had, I was 16 and they were 19, which they were a very nice gentleman. It wasn't weird or anything, but there was like a 3-year age gap. And then after a couple months, the 3-year age gap became very apparent and it just didn't work out. But I think that I have more faith in Stark and Fern's relationship, which we better see that date this episode. Mother Trucker, we better see that date. Anyway, HBanana7 for episode 2 says, Fable Village, a very romantic name for a romantic hero. I usually don't vibe with anyone with a mustache, but I've never seen a man this dreamy. I might swoon in my tight corset. I must fan myself. I do declare. What a southern thing to say. Oh, I do declare. I feel like Jezebel from Pokemon. You're not running properly. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I'm not usually a mustache person either. Hero of the South makes it work. In all seriousness, I especially love the story of the Hero of the South because he made Himmel's quest possible. Frieren is all about legacy, carrying and passing on memories. In this instance, she carried the hero's message to Himmel. It's like generational wealth, even though they are not related. Just as Frieren is an accumulator of odd magic, she has immense wealth, mostly from Himmel, of wisdom. And unlike the dragon's gold, it will never be depleted from use. I used to think Frieren was just a story about the grieving process, but it's not that simple. No, not at all. I had a couple people talk about the idea after episode 3 and episode 2 about history and lineage. And I'm like, you need to go watch Orb on the Movements of the Earth. Just go watch Orb on the Movements of the Earth. Just go do it. It's such a good series. If you like that theme from episode 2, you're going to like that series a lot. So yeah, G the Wolf 7948 says the Angle elf image is the goddess. Okay, because the goddess looks like an elf. Yes, thank you. Vero-chan for episode 2 says, I like to believe that the hero decided to meet Frieren not only to tell her about her own future, to pass on the message to Himmel, but also as a way to make himself be remembered by somebody, like how Himmel himself does with the statues and by bringing happiness to the towns his party visited during their journey. I agree with that. And again, you all should watch Orb on the Movements of the Earth if you like that theme. Now we have a few things about the Hero of the South versus Schlatt. Gabor Barta, 1213 says, I think the future seeing demon could only be defeated by the Southern hero, precisely because he could also see the future. So they kept evading each other and each other's attacks. In the end, they agreed to a draw, where both of them would kill each other. I don't think either Himmel or Frieren could have done this. Only him. And that's why he went there and sacrificed his own life to eliminate the future-seeing demon and ensure that Himmel and the others would succeed. And he took down like 3 of the other sages with him. So crazy, right? And then Chris Toes 901, who probably should have an OnlyFans for said toes. No, I'm kidding. Joking. Says, I like to think of the hero of the South versus Schlott as if you're playing a tic-tac-toe game. It's easy to predict what your opponent's next move will be, but it's also easy to get a draw. It's kind of like that. Both of them just could never find the right move to kill their opponent without also dying themselves, because the opponent was also avoiding any and all scenarios which they would die, but the other would live. Interesting. Yes, I think that's really cool. And then Zikatar the Immortal adds to that, saying, seeing as both the Southern Hero and the Sage Demon had perfect deterministic future sight, it feels poetic and scientifically symmetrical that they are destined to kill each other, preserving a balance of OP story-breaking power. Yes, I love that. If they're both going to have this OP power, they both need to take each other out. And then S-Anime, in reply to Zikatar, said, I also think that the second half, where Frieren explains that demons have a lot of pride, it's almost natural instinct for them to boast their power, and it would also fit into why Schlatt, if he had the same power, would not care if he was going to his death. He would want to, out of pride, face the hero, which creates a neat contrast to the hero who's not going out of pride, but to pass the baton to Himmel and make it easier for him to face the Demon King. Love that. I think that's a really cool comparison as well. We'll get to S-Anime again here in just a second. Christopher Peterson says for episode 2, of course the very next episode after they say we've never seen a demon without magic, we get the sword demon that seemingly doesn't use any at all. Although I guess my point still stands, that demons could have a fair bit more trouble if they had been equipped with a crystal necklace or something making it so they could not be directly targeted by magic. I wish we would have seen Fern with that locket that had pictures of her parents among the trinkets in the last episode. It would be sad if she lost that one somehow, since she was a small child. I commented on somebody's post saying that she's really obsessed with trinkets, which is interesting because she came to hate her with only that locket. I imagine that she's got the locket hidden somewhere. Maybe she doesn't get it out, but also maybe she did lose it. And maybe that's why, maybe she did lose it, and that's why she keeps all the trinkets close, because she doesn't have anything to remember her family by. That's a interesting thing. I wonder if we'll find out about that. And then Christopher Peterson for episode 3 says, I think I need to know what the tantrum was about. Sure, it was for the joke, but we have seen Frieren lose her hometown, her family, I would guess, and 2 of her friends that she saved the world with, and nothing else made her like that. It must have really missed out on some grimoire with a legendary spell, like instantly drying your hair or something like that. Now, S-Anime says in reply, it is rumored on social media, now take this with a grain of salt, y'all, that Frieren was going to open a mimic and then Himmel stopped her, and someone else opened the mimic and actually got a grimoire. Whether this is true or not doesn't matter, because the tantrum scene is hilarious for 2 reasons. The fact that she actually jumps off the cupboard and hurts her leg in one scene, and Himmel trembling in the background. Christopher Peterson also says, I hadn't noticed the elf head on the stone. It looks like the goddess depicted as elf-like, so perhaps as to her likeliness. The ruin doesn't look like a place of worship, so perhaps a guard tower on the trail of some pilgrimage to a hot spring now long forgotten. Frieren has indeed mastered the awkward sleeping positions. Perhaps she could be utilized like Bertolt to foretell the weather. I forgot to comment back to you about that over on Patreon, but that's hilarious and that's amazing, and I don't disagree with that at all. So I know I've taken like nearly 14 minutes to talk about the comments for these last few episodes, but I wanted to catch up with them today. I got the chance to. My moderator was able to check the comments, and you all have left so many amazing comments, so thank you very much. I really appreciate it, but I've wasted so much time. We need to dive into this episode, right? Anyway, I'm really excited, so we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to watch episode 4 of Frieren Beyond Journey's End Season 2 down in the link down below, and we're going to get that started here in 3, 2, 1, and I'll see you all on the other side. The show doesn't miss. The show doesn't miss. It just doesn't miss. And oh man, we need to talk about this episode. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and start the screenshots so we can dive into it. That OP has been getting me every time I've been watching it. It just gets me more and more each time. Here in 3, 2, 1. But we're gonna skip it to dive right into this episode. And the ED is just amazing. But the OP is growing on me. Like the ED I loved instantly. The OP has been growing more and more on me as we get through the season. And we're only 4 episodes in, so that's exciting. But yeah. So I am glad that we got Stark and Fern's date, but man, this series, I wouldn't call it 2 steps forward and 1 step back. I don't think that's the description of it, but this series, it's like if you dipped a spoon into molasses and you pulled it out and then you slowly drizzled it over that biscuit. That is the romance of Stark and Fern. And I'm fine as long as it keeps progressing slowly but surely. I'm okay with it. But I do want to talk about it. I think the series does a good job of kind of highlighting some like awkwardness of young relationships and starting out relationships and some things that are noted. These 2 damn birds that start out this episode up here, like foreshadowing. Can we talk about these 2 outfits? Because I will be so real with y'all. Though until they revealed the piping that was black underneath like the purple dress, on the rack, that purple dress is hideous. On the rack, it looks so bad. I was like, girl, what, Mrs. Grimace? But she pulled it off. Fern could pull that off. I was like, okay, she actually looks really cute in it. And once she put the dress on, I was like, okay, I did not ever think purple on purple would look good, but she made it work. That Quaker Oats black dress, if I had the choice, I probably would have picked the black and white dress, but okay, now you can see the black piping. Yeah, on the rack, they both look a little Amish on the rack, but Fern makes them work. Fern has a snatched body, so she can make it work. I'm like, girl, good for you. Good for you. And Frieren's like, Frieren's had the same outfit for 1,000 years. Why would she, I wouldn't exactly go to her for like outfit advice. Also, what a grandma move, being like, just pick what dress everyone. You gotta do grandma's hair before you go. I do like the little touch that even though she messily puts the braids together and Frieren says she does it out of anger, we find out later that she does those braids whenever she's in a good mood. And so even though she was mad that Frieren was making her do the braids for the date, she was in a good mood. So I like that little detail. I think that's really cute. But yeah, so she ends up going out in the dress. Now, I will say, our girl Fern, she does know how to accessorize. The white shoes with the little white purse, that was a cute choice. With the little bracelet, that was a good choice. That actually worked out. Like I said, when she wears it, it looked freaking adorable with the silver accessories and all that. Like, she got herself done up. And look, I love Stark. He's one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite character in this whole show. But sometimes I want to just take him by the shoulders very gently and just shake him. And if Sign was here, he'd be like, psh, 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 get it together. But I want to talk about that. I think that both Stark and Fern are so delightfully awkward. They are awkward. And they're not even like young teens. They're like 18 and 19 at this point. But they're still awkward. And I like that Fern kind of gets into that awkwardness of what possibly contributes to her being that way. And we'll talk more about that. And Stark was raised by Ison for the most part. And Ison was just like, he's like, what? Dating? Who knows anything like that? If Stark had been raised by Himmel, he'd been trying to like woo Fern all over the place. And I don't know if Fern would know what to do with all of that, right? I was expecting though, when he saw her, like there was a part of me that was going to laugh. If it was like a Rachel Lee Cook, she's all that moment where, you like take off the glasses and put the hair down out of the ponytail. And then she like walks down the stairs and it's like Kiss Me by Sixpence None the Richer plays. And that would have been really funny and would not have fit the tone of Frieren at all. But I did expect him to have a reaction, but he's such a late bloomer and it's like such a delayed reaction. It's not like till they're walking down the street and he's like, she's kind of cute. And I'm like, no shit, Sherlock. I also wish he would have told her that she looked cute, because I think that, Fern getting dressed up and accessorizing and everything shows that she put a lot of care into the date because she wanted it to go well and she wanted him to think she looked nice. And anyone out there, I don't care if you're a man, woman, they, them, whatever. If you go on a date and your partner looks nice, please tell them they look nice. If they have agreed to go on a date with you and you see them and they look nice, please speak up. I guarantee it will only help you if you say they look nice. Now, you don't have to go overboard. You don't have to be like, oh my gosh, you're dazzling and beautiful and I love you. Like, you don't have to do that. You can just see what they're wearing and be like, wow, that's a nice outfit. That will do you wonders. That will take you so far if you just say it out loud. You don't have to elaborate on it. You just be like, wow, that's a really nice outfit. You look great today. Done. That's all you have to say. If they've agreed to go on a date with you, there is an expectation that they want to hear that. So, and it needs to be genuine, right? But yeah, they're just so delightfully awkward. But damn, this date was at times slightly painful. And look, I understand that Fern is so excited about the date. She's like ready to go with him and thinks it's going to be like this. It's going to be romantic, right? And Stark is so afraid of saying the wrong thing. And I'm glad that he actually like admits it later. And he's like, oh yeah, it is a date, isn't it? And he looks over and sees these two, like just like this one couple, all the couples in town, they all got it going on. They're all doing great. We don't even know if these two are dating. It's like laundry day and she's just carrying laundry like, hey, what's going on? There is a part of me that like I really empathize with Stark because when you go on a date, it's not like these two aren't even on a date. They're just talking with each other, like getting the laundry done. And there's not pressure of, if the date goes wrong, is she going to stop talking to you? Like if this date doesn't go well, Stark very well is afraid that Fern's like the rest of this trip, she's going to ignore him and it's going to be really awkward and terrible. So whenever you have like that term date applied to it, there's this expectation, and Stark, who has zero romantic experience, is like, I don't know what to do. So why can't it just be as natural and easy as this is, right? But I think that that's part of it, is that they both like each other and they're both like afraid of rejection from one another, that it like creates this standstill between them. And she looks so pouty there, but Fern is just waiting for like, the sun to come out and them to get out of these shadows. And Stark, meanwhile, is like 20,000 leagues later realizing that she looks cute. And he's like, oh, let's just go. Like, my dude. And she's like, well, you seem quite forced. I feel like Fern got a little bit out of that moment where she's like, why are you feeling nervous? I feel like she got a little bit out of that. And he's like, no, everything's fine. Also, something that you do is if you step in front of the person you're taking on a date, if you walk in front of them and not beside them, you better have a reason. So if you take off and leave them behind, there best be a reason. Like you're going to go check on a reservation, or you're going to go make have a place saved for them, or like something like that. But here it feels like he's leaving her behind, and Fern came on you for a date. Like she wants to be with you, not behind you. So he's like, let's go check out the marketplace. And he just starts walking off without her. And I'm like, what are you doing? At that point, I wanted to slap Stark. I'm like, don't walk off without her. Like, grab her hand, hold her hand, or like, put your arm around her arm or something. Or at least walk beside her. Don't make her catch up to you, especially if she's in heels. Like, granted, those are the most kitten of kitten heels. But they still are on cobblestone. They're still going to hurt. My dude. She said sometimes in markets, in big cities, they have unusual magical items. Meanwhile, Frieren is like, yes. Frieren's like, I've been having the best time in this city, let me tell you. When have we seen Frieren look this excited? When? When have we ever? Also, Stark, he could have changed clothes. Maybe he only has those clothes with him. I've never really seen him anything else. I like the conch shell. She's got a Pokemon fossil. She's got all the books and everything. She even fell asleep under a pile of magical items. She just got into mimic pose. It's like a yoga pose at this point. She got into the mimic stance. And that was it. Like, girl, are you nesting? What are we doing? Oh my God. And then they debate on whether Frieren's visiting the hot springs, which she did. It was super cute. I like her and this old lady have become besties. I really love that. It's like when you're on vacation, and if you've been on vacation like in the same place for like a while, you start to like either the people that are staying for the same duration you are or the locals, depending on where you stay at, you start to build like this kind of like pseudo acquaintance rapport with them. And it's kind of interesting. My best friend and I, a few years ago, we went to Cape Cod for like a couple days just to like have a weekend trip. And we stayed at this little like hotel where the rooms were like all on the outside of the inn. And there was someone right next to us. They had a golden retriever. And we were there for like 3 days. And every morning we came out and we saw them. And like on the third day when we were getting ready to leave, we're like, oh, hey. And you're like, you just get to know these random strangers for like a couple days where you see them at the same place at the same time. And it's this cool kind of like pseudo rapport you build with them. That's kind of fun. And so Frieren's got this with this woman, which is really fun. Yeah, what a cute hairstyle, Missy. There's like all these little details that Fern has done, like with the bracelet and everything, that I wish Stark would have picked up on, but I think it's realistic that he didn't pick up on them because sometimes when you're on a date, you don't always pick up on things. So, you know, what can you do? But when they said there was nothing else to discuss, I, again, wanted to gently shake him because I'm like, Stark, there's lots of things you could discuss. You don't have to just talk about Frieren. Because she's like, oh, there's nothing to discuss. I'm like, my dude, you could ask Fern how she's doing. You could ask Fern, what does she want to do? You could ask Fern, what does she think about today? What does she like to do? You could ask her what her favorite color is. You could ask her where'd she get the dress. Like, I was like, Stark, there's so many things you could have asked her in that moment. And to his credit, Fern could have asked him a lot of questions right back. So it's not, I don't want to dog on Stark the entire episode because even though I'm like, my dude, you suggested this date, this does kind of fall into your purview. I think that she could have asked him things back. And she doesn't because, you know, for various reasons, whatever the case may be, they could have talked to each other about other things, but they both decided not to. So he asked her if she wants to get something to eat and she's like, no. And so they go look around in the marketplace and I would have got one of these sweet oil lamps. Heck yes, I would have gotten that black one right there in the center. That one looks pretty sweet. But yeah, they go up to these trinkets, which Frieren did tell him to look at. And again, whenever she says couples get a discount, she's throwing him like some hard bones. She's throwing him like the biggest hint, like, oh, I like this necklace. Couples get discounts. Like the big giant Lucille Bluth wink to him, like, you know. And Stark's like, that's cool. I'm like, sir, she wants you to buy it for her. She wants you to buy it for her. Like, she might as well be putting it in neon letters in front of you. And Stark just does not get it. He's like, well, being on a date has its benefits. It's like, and the blink she gives there where she was just like, yeah, no shit, buy me the necklace. He doesn't do it. I'm like, Stark. And she's like, you're rather blunt, aren't you? Really missing the forest for the trees, aren't we? Yeah. And so she puts it back down. And then he's like, well, this stuff's pretty ordinary. I'm like, my dude, Frieren just told you the other day that she likes these things. Like, like, you know, they're not magical. And she's like, she tries to make conversation about it. But he's like, yeah, you got a point. And he's like, well, since we're in the city, let's check out some other places too. Now, I understand Stark and his dilemma here because I am the same as Stark. I am not a shopper. Contrary to whatever you may think, I hate shopping. I really don't like shopping in person. I like online shopping because I can just do it whenever I want to, and it's convenient. I don't have to talk to salespeople that are trying to get commissions, and I don't have to do that, and I don't have to try stuff on. It's very convenient. I don't like shopping. When it comes to like Christmas shopping or gift giving, I'm like, I need to know what I'm going to get. I need to go in, get it, get out. My dad is the same way. My dad and I are the same way. We don't like shopping. We don't want to look at things. We just want to get the stuff and go. My mother could stay in a shop for hours. And I'm like, let's just go. So I understand Stark wanting to just go get the food. I'm with him. I'd want to just go get food, right? But Fern wanted to shop. She clearly wasn't ready to go. And he's leaving her behind. He's not being a gentleman with this date. And part of the reason is because this is not stuff he would have done. Part of it is he's following someone else's agenda of what to do on the date. So he doesn't exactly know, since it's not things he picked out to do, he doesn't know when to stop and do it, when to not do it. He's like, I'm just kind of following the guide plan that Frieren gave me. But I'm like, my dude, walk beside her. That's not hard. And then when she looks back, like, the guy gets it for her. And Frieren and Fern is like, oh, you're a couple of lovebirds, huh? And he's like, well, you must be hungry, right? There are some stalls over here selling some tasty looking food. And she's like, oh yeah. I mean, I'm with Stark. I'm a foodie too, but, and you know, it is something where I don't think all couples have to be exactly like the ones that Fern saw at the stand, right? Like, Stark's kind of awkward, but he doesn't have to be like that other guy, right? I mean, because that guy's not like Stark, and it's fine. But then they go sit at the table and everything, and she about falls, and he catches her, right? And he catches her and he's like, are you okay? And that was nice that he caught her. And then he's like, oh, wow, it does seem hard to walk in those shoes. And at the time, I thought maybe he was going to, like, offer to, like, help her walk to the table. But then he just leaves her again. And I'm like, you could not make this worse, Stark. Like, what? My dude. Stark does not have a romantic bone in his body, unfortunately. Himmel is rolling in his multiple graves. Himmel is rolling in his grave at all of this. Himmel is like, what are you doing? Just, I felt so bad for him. I was like, oh my God. You know that Himmel would be like, being like, Frieren, you have to help this poor man. Cyan is like sneezing miles and miles away, being like, Frieren, you have to help this poor boy. So yes, they eat at the table. They go pay their respects to Frieren's dead boyfriend, which, as they should, you know. And I imagine that Fern's like, I could see what she saw in him. And then they go get the dessert. One thing I do want to notice, at the one table they didn't have a choice because it was to where you had to sit facing each other. You had to sit facing each other at the other table because there were only 2 seats. Here, one thing I do want to notice is, yeah, they are facing each other so that they can talk to one another. But if I was on a date with somebody and I was at a table that was like that, I would sit on the bench closer to them so that I would be closer to that person, especially when you look and see how much distance is between them and the table. Like, the 2 women that are sitting there, maybe they're on a date too, or they could just be friends, right? But here, since he's like, the 2 of them have their drink and everything, I would have moved over. I would have got closer to her, right? I would have gotten closer. However, those pancakes look amazing. With the blueberries, the raspberries, and the apples on it, I would eat that up in a heartbeat. That sounds like a breakfast of champions right there. And they have their orange juice, and then he has his strawberry parfait, which is super cute. He loves those parfaits. And you could tell he's just nervous. You could tell the whole time he's just nervous about everything, about if the date's going well. They talk about there being statues of Himmel everywhere, and they're like, damn it, we're talking about Frieren again. I do love the callback to there's like 100 poses of Himmel. And he's like, oh. And he's like, well, this is a nice quiet place and the view's really pretty. And then he asks her if she had fun today. And I like that she says, I wouldn't say that. And he's like, well, you haven't smiled. And I do think that part of Fern's thing that is kind of interesting to note is that she's not like, I don't want to do the cliche, she's not like other girls, but she really isn't like a cheerful, bubbly person. Like, Fern is, she's a child of war. And when she mentions that, it kind of makes a lot of things get put into perspective, that this girl comes from a really traumatic backstory before she met Hader. And her feeling like survivor's guilt of feeling like she can't enjoy a date is something I never even considered with her. But it makes a lot of sense. And meanwhile, you have Stark, who grew up kind of in like this militaristic environment and then was raised by an old dwarf hermit. Like, you can understand why he's not romantic or exactly keen on those things. So, you know, it's like the blind leading the blind in this episode at the first part. She's like, I was looking forward to our date, but this just didn't feel like you. And I'm glad that she said that, because I think he needed to know that it's not that the date was bad. It's just, this wasn't your date. You were basically just taking her on something Frieren would have planned, right? And I like that he admits that I had Frieren choose these places. And she's like, why would you let her do that? And he's like, well, because, she said you would like it. And I wanted you to enjoy this. And she's like, I was disappointed today, but she's like, I'm happy now. I'm glad that he told her that because that kind of made up for her. She was like, okay. She's like, you were trying to make this special for me. You do care about me. You just didn't know what to do during this date because it wasn't what you wanted to do and you were uncomfortable. She's like, I'm very happy. You racked your brain for me. She's like, you're such a simpleton, but you are a caring and considerate simpleton and you tried your best, right? And he did legit try, right? He wanted it to be special for her. And he's like, okay. Like, I'm glad. Although, I feel like these two, like this pose here, Cyan is back there behind that tree banging his head up against the bricks. Right now! I kind of like it, though, because normally, like I talked about last episode, in most, like, shonen anime, the main couple doesn't get together till the very, very, very end, and then the guy gets, like, anime dad hair or whatever, and they have a child that looks exactly like one of them. And in this case, I do like the concept that Stark and Fern are showing their care for each other. They're trying romance, and it's organic because they're both part of a, like, fantasy party out to destroy demons, and they don't really have time to be romantic, but this is just them slowly working at it. It's a work in progress, but it's in progress, right? It's not just we're going to save this till the very end and then see where it goes, right? And then they finally find something that they can talk about. They can talk about clouds. And it's like the first time they have a conversation where they both laugh about something. And it's absolutely adorable and precious. And I'm like, more of that, please. More of that. But we're going to talk about, like, they care for each other in other ways. And we're going to talk about it later on in this episode. But here, when Fern's like, when I was a war orphan, I never thought I'd get to relax like this. And he's like, yeah. And she's like, I have Mr. Hater to thank for that. And he's like, I have my master to thank. Like, they're masters who I ship out the wazoo, helping these two, like, have a nice life together. Also, I love just seeing little tiny Ison and little tiny baby Stark. Like, and you know what? It's understandable why Stark is the way that he is, because Hater's not exactly a romantic person. I would describe, or Ison isn't a romantic person. I would describe Hater as more romantic, but Fern is so different than Hater that it's like, doesn't quite translate to her that well. Yeah, it's super cute. Aw. And he's like, why did you take me in? And frickin', because that's what Himmel the Hero had done. That's what frickin' Frieren Jesus would do, right? Yeah. Frickin' Himmel. And then I like that Frieren asks how it goes. And she's like, well, the date wasn't really that good. And Frieren's like, I know what that means. You're still happy nonetheless. And I like that Frieren relates it to her own date with Himmel, that it wasn't exactly what she expected, if she expected anything at all. But he treated it like a date. And he's like, well, I'm in a good mood because today was a good day. It didn't go as planned, but I still got to spend the day with you. Oh, shut up. Shut up. And then he's like, even if things don't go as you hoped, you can still enjoy the process. I was like, if he makes me cry, I'm like, because that's just an analogy of his whole life. He's like, things didn't go as he'd hoped. He hoped that he'd win her over and she'd be with him till his dying day. And instead she doesn't see him for 50 years. And then he's like, you can still enjoy the process of getting there. I'm like, oh my God. He gets to have like that one meteor shower with her at the end of his life. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? This series is so cruel for what it does with Himmel and Frieren. It's so cruel. She better see him again at this place they're going to. She better see him again, right? At end. She better. He's like, we should give it another shot before Ison and Hater beat us to it. And then And then we see the black cat showing up. Also, for a hot second, I thought a laser beam shot in front of this cat, and I was like, Frieren, no! Like, Himmel's face is like, oh my God! Like, that is such a shot. Of course it's a black cat. Of course it is. This is what gave Himmel the 50 years of bad luck. This black cat on their first date. It was a sign. It was a sign. But yeah. And so then Frieren has her hairstyle braided. The braids are cute. I like Frieren's normal hairstyle, but the braids are cute. And Stark being like, I can't tell the difference. Oh my God, this man's hopeless. She's like, but I look good, right? So we get to Nachricht, the region located in the northern lands. That's the second part of this episode. I will be honest, I was curious what people would think. I'm not mad at the getting like 2 chapters, getting 2 parts to an episode. I know in season 1 it bothered some people. It does not bother me at all. As long as they are complete stories in both parts, I'm fine with that. I really am. I'm kind of, I don't know. There are some times where I want stories to be drawn out, and there's other times where I'm like, no, don't draw it out, because then the pacing will get bad. So with Frieren, I feel like they make it work really well. So I'm fine with this structure. But so yeah, when Warble was talking about the northern lands being run with some crazy demons and monsters, not joking, this episode was kind of scary. Like, the animation in the second half was really good. So they're getting to the northern plateau checkpoint, and the need for our first class mage really comes into play for the first time right here of the season, as we get to this imposing checkpoint. And yeah, they're like, the fact that they have a deadbolt system like this means there's some scary stuff on the other side. It's like when you're going to see the Elite Four and suddenly there's like level 70 Pokemon and you're just like at level 40. It's like, well, shit. Gotta level up to go here, right? So yeah, so they end up stocking up for a while they're there. And they're getting all the goods and everything. Make sure you get all the food and all that stuff. And they're like, this suitcase looks like it'd fit more than it would. So are we saying the suitcase is magic? Because that's been my assumption. For Frieren to carry all of her trinkets that she gets along the way. I'm like, the suitcase is like, it's like AKA, it's a cross between Mary Poppins' bag and the TARDIS. It just is a magic suitcase that carries all the things that you need. And she's like, convenient, right? Girl, she probably put a spell on that suitcase. She probably traded somebody for a spell to make a suitcase limitless in terms of its, like, capacity so that she could put everything in it. Love that. So, yeah, then they show up and this guy's like, where do you think you're going? And she's like, actually, I have my permit. And he's like, oh, well, hey. Like, he changes his tune real quick. It's like, oh, yeah, you guys are good to go. Yeah, take care. She's like, first class mages are the greatest of all mages. She's like, basically your girlfriend is really important. What's interesting is that even though she's a first class mage, and even though, you know, she's of a lot of importance, she needed Stark and Frieren's help to defeat that monster in this episode. She could not have done it by herself. She would have died. So it puts a lot more, it gives the mage exam a lot more substance now that we're seeing it in action. Now that we're at the Northern Plateau and we're seeing how strong the monsters and demons are, it does show why they wanted you to be this strong to get to this point. Because otherwise they're like, you're going to die. You're going to die. I also want to talk about the fact that I think they need to add people to their party. I think they need to add some people to their party because Stark getting exhausted, Frieren and Fern having their own like limitations. I feel like Stark being the only frontliner. I mean, if you think about it, there were 5 in Frieren's party going to face the Demon King, and they went through the same area, and there were 5 of them. 1 was a healer, 2 were like frontline people with Himmel and Ison, and then Frieren was the mage, and Hader was able to heal. So it's like, well, or was there only 4 of them? There was only 4 of them, wasn't there? Why am I thinking 5? No, it was just the 4 of them. But still, they had an extra person. So I feel like it feels a little unbalanced. I feel like we need a 4th person in the party. I wish Cyan would come back because he was a lot of fun. And also he would help escalate the romance plot. or make it worse. But yeah, I like also Frieren being like, are you serious, Mr. Stark? Bitch, are you for real? There's like a whole ass Jurassic Park right in the opening like round here. Love it. So yeah, so then they get to this small village. Also, well, before we get to the village, Mother Trucker, that's scary. That is scary. What in the disc world? Y'all, that was pretty, that giant like Goliath coming out of the like ground. Nope, at that point I've been like, all right, let's go back. Let's get on that boat. I didn't even know sailing around was an option. So yeah, we basically go through, as if Stark needed another reason to be scared of snakes. Freaking Arbok shows up and like hypnotizes him. Poor Stark. He cannot catch a break with the snakes. Or the gargoyles for that fact. Although Frieren just being out like a little burrito next to Fern is pretty hilarious. I actually live for Frieren's sleep poses. They give me a lot of joy. So we show up at this village. At first I thought the village was very suspicious because it looks all intact. It's not till you go a little further that you see the buildings and stuff starting to get destroyed that you're like, okay, this place has been through some things. But I hope we can rest here. I do like the concept of the thread. I was wondering where they were going with the spinning wheel and the thread because I was like, where are we going with this? But then the husband explains later on, Stark's like, well, you know, if all these monsters and stuff are destroying places, like, why don't you just leave? And the spinning wheel kind of comes into play. He's like, you can stay here, but there's a powerful monster that's been frequenting the main road, and the local knights are powerless against it. So we kind of see a local knight for a hot second. We see a local knight. We don't get to see much of him. I'm curious if we'll see him in the future. Maybe not. And then the traveling merchants can't pass this way anymore. As you can see, adventurers rarely come here. He's like, can you please slay the monster for us? And Frieren's just like, yep, sure. Just point us in the direction. We'll do it. And she's like, are you guys okay with that? And Stark's like, well, it's a 3-day trip back south on the main road. Why don't you just go away if it's so dangerous? And I like that the man is like, you know, he's not offended and he doesn't get mad at Stark. He's like, yeah, this place is dangerous. But then he sees his kids in the like doorway and he's like, we were born and raised here. And he sees his 2 children there. And I do appreciate that sentiment because I think it speaks to a larger argument. And this is not something just akin to where I live. This is something global. Like when bad things are happening in parts of the world and people are like, well, why don't you just leave? Like it's dangerous. Why don't you just pack up and leave? And it can make you emotional because these people are like, this is our home. This is where our family was raised. This is where our home is. This is where our memories are of this place. There's all this sentimental value that you can't get anywhere else that's worth more than us just leaving. And some people don't have that luxury to just pack up and move. Moving is expensive. It's hard. It's so difficult. And people just treat it like it's nothing sometimes. They're like, oh, just get up and leave. I'm like, how about you get up and leave? Like, do you know all that goes into that? Like that, it's a crazy thing to ask. And you can see this house, like this house is beautifully built. It's clearly a family heirloom. It's like got all of their family tradition and history tied there. They're like, we're not just going to leave just because things are bad now. They're not always going to be that way. And I like that comes into the whole thread thing. Like it's this thread, the legacy of your family. And it's, again, that generational wealth sort of thing. The land is full of memories of our family. And I think Stark can relate to that. He's like, who could abandon their home? And that kind of hits Stark a little bit because Stark kind of, in a way, did, in a sense. But he understands. And Frieren's like, see, get it? So yeah, so they go on their way and they run across the house that looks like Beast's bedroom from Beauty and the Beast. And then, thank God the horse didn't die. Man, it's the year of the horse, y'all. Let's keep the horses safe. Let's keep the horses safe this year, right? We don't need any more equinicide. But yeah, this monster is actually, the way that they animated this is pretty crazy. Like the fluidity of the movements and the speed was wild. Also, it's also very weird to see like a demon imitating a human in the pose and in the way it swings its sword, but then it's monstrous, so it makes it very scary. But yeah, the fight against all this was a bit tense. Especially the fact that the monster does not immediately go down easily. And again, proving that Fern is powerful, but her defense is kind of like a glass cannon. And when he came for her, this shot of Stark catching her, like the way Stark's face was in that moment when her shield gets hit by the monster and she gets thrown back, like that shot of Stark's face, like he was, that's the only thing that worries me a little bit, is that these two developing a romance, like, is it going to put them in danger even more because he's focused on keeping her safe? Is that going to make him open to be attacked or not? And are they going to talk about that? Because the one thing between Himmel and Frieren is that Himmel constantly loved her, but she didn't, she could take care of herself. But he protected her. So I don't know. If it does happen where Frieren gets in a jam and Stark has to save her and he's questioning that, I think Frieren will speak up and use Himmel as an example of how it's okay if they love each other and it's not going to be distracting for them fighting against demons or whatnot. But yeah, go Stark. This is my thing. Stark is so awkward on a date through town, but him helping her in this way through this battle is so romantic. I'm like, of course, this frontliner's version of romance is just protecting her in battle. Of course it is. Of course it is. But, I mean, that's fine. That works for him. I did like the shield shattering and becoming butterflies, and then it distracted the monster. The monster started, like, swatting at the butterflies. I thought that looked really good. And then Frieren was just like, bitch, no. She's like, Stark, lock in. Now, also, when she said lock in, he did this, which was great, like bursting through the tree trunk. But then when he's like, it's tough, but so am I, and I won't let him beat me. And he's like, Frieren, it felt like Piccolo and Goku in Dragon Ball Z in like the first arc. I'm like, Stark, are you going to be okay? But he jumps off at the last minute and is protected, I'm assuming, by Fern. I'm assuming Fern protected him with the shield. But yeah, good for him. And then Fern's like, well, that thing was strong. And Frieren's like, yeah, there's a lot of these. And again, this calls back to the flashback of her and the hero party. He's like, wouldn't it have been better if we just traveled by sea? And she's like, oh yeah. I like that she smiles in that moment, like, oh yeah, me and you, we're on the same page. It's fascinating to me how throughout this series, there's been a lot of moments where Stark and Frieren have a lot in common, especially in how they think about things, which is really interesting because you would think that Stark would just connect to Ison, but that's not the case. And yeah, and so then Frieren's like, we could travel by sea. And what does our fantasy Jesus say? He's like, well, many people live here. So, I became a hero because I wanted to protect my homeland. And, I want to protect other people's homes too. So that's where the line other people's homes for the episode comes from. And Frieren's just like, yeah, I know, my boyfriend though. And she gives the same advice that Himmel did, only this time to Stark. And then, of course, that makes Stark think about the village that took him in and how he wanted to protect it. And then he thinks about that. And then he remembers his brother who wanted to protect the village that he grew up in and help to keep him safe. So it's just like, it's this generational, like, people wanting to help people in their hometowns, like, over and over again. I'm like, because his brother supposedly died, right? That's what we think happened. That's what's been told to us. Yeah. And Frieren's like, fire yourselves up for the road ahead. Ha ha ha, waka waka. And so then Stark's like, I can't move. He's like, my legs gave out. And I love that Fern calls him pathetic. And he's like, I can't help it. I thought that spell was going to kill me. I don't blame him. I'm surprised he didn't pee his pants, to be fair. Also, we have the family, like, with the two boys and, like, the geese and everything and the goat. That's kind of cute. Like, taking it back to all the family. That's really sweet. Aw. Yeah. What a good episode. Again, season 2 of Frieren has not missed. It's been so good. These two bakas on their date, I want to shake them, but also I appreciate the realism that we're getting. It's just, as anything in Frieren goes, it's not going to be picture perfect the first time you do it. It's Stark and Fern dating is about the friends we met along the way. Anyway, I'm excited to hear your thoughts down below. I thought this episode was great. We have one more episode next week, and then we're going to take a week-long break. So we're going to get fired up for these demons in the Northern Plateau. I still think we need another party member. I think we need somebody to balance it out because poor Stark is pulling a lot of the weight. What if Ubel joined them? Who knows? Ubel would be fun time. But I feel like we need another guy to balance things out, right? Even though Frieren would be like, well, I was around 3 guys. So if Frieren was around 3 guys, I guess Ubel being there would be fine. Stark would deal with it, I suppose. But Ubel would make his life hell. I don't know. We need another party member. But that's just my opinion. But are we going to get it in this season? I don't know. We'll have to see. So anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I look forward to hearing your thoughts down below. And I'll be back next week with episode 5 of Frieren Beyond Journey's End Season 2. And I'll see you then. Bye.